You already know exactly how this ends. You have explained, calmly, that the Subaru WRX STI produces around 310 horsepower in its most recent naturally aspirated version. He has told you, with the patience of a man correcting a child, that you are wrong. He knows someone. He has driven one. His cousin had one. The number is 340. Everyone knows this. You pull out your phone. He does not look at it. He never looks at it. He keeps talking. That is not an argument. That is a one-person performance you were accidentally cast in. There is a specific kind of person who exists in every circle, every workplace, every family gathering where cars come up, and cars always come up. This person does not simply have opinions about cars. They have convictions. They have certainties. They have a mechanic, almost certainly referred to only as my guy, whose word carries the evidentiary weight of peer-reviewed literature. This person can tell you the torque output of an engine that was discontinued before he could legally drive. They will be wrong about it. They will not discover this. And the most disorienting part is not the wrongness itself. It is the complete structural impossibility of getting them to notice it. What makes this person genuinely remarkable is not the confidence alone. Confidence is common. It is the completeness of the system. Every piece of information they encounter gets processed and returned in a form that confirms what they already believed. Contradicting data does not register as contradiction. It registers as error, yours specifically. The spec sheet you found is outdated. The reviewer who disagreed was paid. The test result you are citing was conducted under different conditions, which he cannot specify but which were definitely different. The system is elegant in a way that almost demands admiration if you are not currently trapped inside a conversation with it. This is not stubbornness, technically. It is something far more interesting. In the 1990s, two researchers named David Dunning and Justin Kruger identified something that has since been named after them, for obvious reasons. The Dunning-Kruger effect describes a specific and thoroughly documented cognitive pattern. The less someone actually knows about a subject, the more confident they feel about their knowledge of it. Not slightly more confident, dramatically more confident. Competence, paradoxically, introduces doubt. The more you actually know about something, the more clearly you can see everything you still do not know. The person who knows almost nothing about automotive engineering has no such burden. Their confidence is not limited by any awareness of complexity because they have not yet encountered that complexity. They have achieved a kind of perfect, self-sustaining certainty that actual expertise would immediately destroy. This is not an insult. This is a documented feature of human cognition. It applies to everyone in some domain. For this particular person, that domain is cars, and it feeds itself. Every confident statement they make that goes unchallenged becomes evidence that they were right. Every person who gives up arguing, which is eventually everyone looks, from inside that system, like someone who ran out of counter-arguments. They did not run out of counter-arguments. They ran out of patience. But the result looks identical from the outside, and only one of those two explanations is available to someone who cannot lose. Now, what happens when you actually try to correct them? Stage 1 happens immediately. You offer the correction gently you have learned from experience, and they dismiss it, not aggressively, patiently, as if they have corrected this particular misunderstanding many times before and are tired of doing so. No, no, no. 3 no's. Always 3. The third one is slightly slower than the first two. This is stage 1. Dismissal delivered as explanation, with just enough weariness to imply they are doing you a favor. Stage 2 is the counter-assertion. They provide the correct information with a level of detail that sounds specific but cannot be verified. Not 310, 340. At the crank. The at the crank is important. It adds the texture of precision without committing to anything checkable. You cannot pull up a dyno sheet for a number that exists only in the conversation. A figure that cannot be confirmed cannot be refuted. This is not strategy. This is instinct. They have been doing it so long it comes naturally. Stage 3 is the anecdote. You have pushed slightly, you made the mistake of pulling out your phone, and now the anecdote arrives. He drove one. His cousin had one for 3 years. He was at a car meet where someone who definitely worked at a dealership confirmed this exact figure. The anecdote is personal, experiential, and completely immune to external evidence. You cannot fact-check his cousin. You cannot reach the person from the car meet. The anecdote does not need to be verifiable. Its function is not documentation. Its function is displacement, move the conversation from the territory of facts into the territory of lived experience, where nobody can follow you with a spec sheet. Stage 4. The mechanic. My guy has been working on these for 20 years. The mechanic exists in a quantum state, simultaneously the final authority on all automotive questions and someone whose name and location are never provided. He diagnosed a transmission issue over the phone once. He told a story that settled a debate about German fuel injection systems at a dinner 2 years ago. He has opinions on engine mounts that differ significantly from the manufacturer's recommendations, and those opinions are correct. He is unfalsifiable by design, which is also by design. Stage 5 is the one that exhausts you most. By this point, you have been in this conversation for 11 minutes, and you can see the exit and you cannot reach it. Stage 5 is the principled retreat. They are not wrong. They simply disagree with your sources. They prefer real-world experience over internet speculation. This is not stubbornness. They will be very clear about this. Slightly offended that you might think. So it is just that they have been around long enough to know that numbers on paper mean nothing next to actual time under the hood. This lands like a philosophy. It achieves the same effect as simply refusing to move, but it does so with the dignity of a position. That is the finishing move. It is nearly impossible to counter without sounding like you think reading a spec sheet makes you smarter than lived experience, which is a much worse argument to be in. Here is what nobody tells you about this entire dynamic. It is completely rational. Not correct. Rational. There is a difference, and it matters. The automotive opinion is not actually about the car. It is load-bearing. For this person, being the one who knows about cars is not a hobby, it is a role. It is a specific, important answer to the question of what kind of person they are. In environments where formal credentials are absent, where expertise is not recognized, where nobody hands you a certificate for the things you have actually learned in formal authority becomes essential. The car knowledge fills something real. It fills the need to be someone who knows things, in rooms full of people who do not know those things. That is not a small need. That is a very human one. Dismantling it with a horsepower figure from a manufacturer's website is not a correction. It is a threat to an entire self-concept. Neurologically, for this person, admitting the engine displacement is wrong feels functionally identical to admitting they are not who they think they are. The brain does not cleanly separate those two things. It protects both with equal urgency. You have probably felt a version of this yourself, not about cars necessarily, but about something. That is cognitive dissonance at work. The discomfort the brain experiences when incoming information conflicts with existing self-image. The brain's response to that discomfort is rarely to update the self-image. It is usually to discredit the incoming information. It is faster, and it feels better, and it works every time. You are not arguing about cars. You have never been arguing about cars. That is why the evidence does not work. Evidence works in arguments about facts. You are in an argument about identity. Nobody has ever won one of those with a dyno sheet. Every group has calibrated around this person in its own way. The people who figured it out earliest simply agree now, not because they believe him, because they have done the math. The cost of disagreement is a 20-minute detour through the 5 stages, and the cost of agreement is a small, quiet nod and a conversation that ends in under 30 seconds. These are peaceful interactions, slightly hollow, but peaceful. The only danger is if you actually need the information to be correct, if you are, say, about to buy a car and you asked him about it. In that case, you have made an error in judgment that no amount of nodding will fix. Then there is the person who still tries. You recognize them immediately, slightly tense, phone already half out of their pocket, visibly composing the correction in a way that might, this time, avoid triggering the full cycle. They have a theory. The theory is that tone is the problem. That if they phrase it correctly gently, as a question, framed as curiosity rather than disagreement, the mechanism will not activate. The mechanism always activates. Tone is not the variable. It has never been the variable. These people mean well. They are usually newer to the group. Give them 6 months. And then, very occasionally, there is someone who has developed a skill that looks almost supernatural. They redirect before it starts. They somehow sense the exact moment, usually about 4 seconds after the topic of cars enters the room, and they introduce something else, quickly enough and naturally enough that the whole thing deflates before it inflates. Nobody can fully explain how they do this. They cannot explain it themselves. They have simply spent enough time in these conversations to develop an early warning system for a very specific kind of incoming certainty. You know the tell if you have been around long enough? It is a particular kind of pause, the pause that precedes a statement delivered with more confidence than the situation has earned. Some people have built entire conversational survival strategies around recognizing it in time. The last thing worth saying is this. The person who can never be wrong about cars is, in some specific and genuinely human way, the person most invested in being someone worth listening to. That is not a flaw unique to them. It is just more visible in them, in this particular context, in these particular conversations. The car is just where it shows up. The need underneath it is one you probably recognize. Leave your most confidently wrong automotive moment in the comments. The most specific one wins makeup figures, invented specifications. The more detailed the wrongness, the better. Subscribe if you want more of this. There are a lot of these people. We are nowhere near done.